insights into what's going on with impeachment. I'll start with this. Here is AOC calling for an impeachment vote on the record, calling out Nancy Pelosi. And look, this is, regardless of what your opinion of impeachment is, and I think people know mine, when you start seeing stories like this in Politico, where they interview, 16 House Democrats in interviews offered conflicting assessments of the status of the House Judiciary Committee's investigation of Trump, which its chairman, Jerry Nadler, bills as, quote, an impeachment investigation. Here it is. We have been in the midst of an impeachment investigation, says Representative Pramila Jayapal, member of the Judiciary Committee. Quote, no, we're not in an impeachment investigation, end quote, says Representative Jim Himes, Connecticut, member of the House Intelligence Committee. Third, Representative Gregory Meeks said the House is investigating to determine, quote, whether or not there should be an impeachment investigation. Like, there's no value in this. And I said this yesterday, but it bears repeating. The founding fathers contemplated a Donald Trump.
Right.
That is why they have a method to impeach someone like Donald Trump. What they did not contemplate was someone like Nancy Pelosi, who is in the opposition party, who just basically says, he definitely deserves it. Every day we see new law breaking. I mean, they should have impeached him just on the attempt to reappropriate money to the wall.
Right.
I mean, there's so many, and she knows it. She thinks there's political benefit in not. And here's AOC disagreeing with that premise.
I want to see every Republican go on the record and knowingly vote against impeachment of this president, knowing his corruption, having it on the record so that they can have that stain on their careers for the rest of their lives, because this is outrageous to protect the amount of lawlessness and corruption coming out of this presidency.
Do you want the speaker to take that message?
Any message that works, I would like them to take up that message. But personally, I think that it is beyond time, and we have to end this lawlessness and corruption coming out of the White House.
I mean, she's right. And, we saw this. This to me ties into this North Carolina race. Obviously, this is a district that Donald Trump won by 12% in 2016. I think Mitt Romney, similar amount, 12% in 2016. This is a very red district. The Democrat missed it by 2 percentage points. It was 1,000 votes last time, and a significant number of those votes we know were fraudulent. Mm-hmm. But what the Republicans did, McCready, the Democrat, was able to bring out more of his voters, just not enough to overcome the fact that Bishop, the Republican, brought out even more rural voters.
Right.
Because Donald Trump shows up there.
And they do better traditionally in special elections. Erase the last couple of cycles where there's been a revived Democratic base on the progressive side organizing, and even, Democrats in these special elections. Republicans traditionally have an edge when they get their shit together and start to organize. So even when the Democratic Party invests so much money into what I think is a very 2004-esque candidate,
right.
A young, veteran, an entrepreneur, was he a lawyer too? Went to Harvard and Yale and Harvard and Duke, I think. Very cookie cutter. Even with that, they put everything into it, and they still couldn't, overrun the Republicans, who just have a natural edge.
Well, they have a natural edge, but here's also, I think, the thing that is not natural. You have all these people coming out because they're supporting Donald Trump,
right?
And the vast majority of people who are voting against Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And if that's the formula, you've got to go out there and give this candidate an opportunity. Now, he basically said, I would not vote for Nancy Pelosi, et cetera, et cetera. But this seems to me to be indication that there isn't necessarily enough people who are going to be motivated by your coming up there and saying, I am just slightly more moderate version of this guy.
Exactly.
People are not looking for moderation. They have their opinions. They're just looking for the person who can convince them the candidate that can convince them that I'm going to act on your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can't compromise with someone like this. And this is what drives me mad with the Democrats is, we were talking about polarization. Yes, our country is polarized. You have Nazis who have invaded the White House and John Bolton's, and then you have the Democrats being like, well, we need to compromise and have people in the middle. You want to compromise with a Nazi? You want to compromise somebody who, with an oligarchy, with monopolies? That hasn't worked in the last 20 years. And I think in places like North Carolina, I don't know if you've done work there, gone there at all, but there's a real populism there. Even in Charlotte, larger cities, there's a real populism in cities, in rural communities. And if the Democrats are continuing with this cookie cutter approach, I just don't think they're going to be able to go over the edge. We saw it with Ossoff.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes. And I see him running for governor in Georgia, and that's a little bit scary in that respect. I mean, I think like the bottom line too, it seems to me, and I've been following a little bit of this this woman. Her name it's Rachel Bitkofer. She was a statistician who predicted the 2018 blowout very, very early in the cycle, and there's some things that I don't necessarily subscribe to that she suggests, but one thing I think that she makes a very good case is that like partisanship, you need to play into the partisanship because you have one side that is using partisanship to its full potential, and the other side that is not, and they can't. I'm not even convinced necessarily that you need to have a specific ideological set of plans, but whatever they are, they have to be in opposition to Donald Trump and the Republicans as they stand today. And that and clouding that, the fact that you stand on one side of the divide and convincing your voters, because there are no sort of like lean Democrat, lean Republican voters. They are either I lean Democrat or I lean Republican. And who's going to motivate me? Who's going to inspire those reasons why I already lean for those people, as opposed to I could go either way.